Founder of the Ndiho Impact, an organization that trains organizations and NGOs in digital advocacy and other initiatives. And so today I'm going to be the moderator of the panelists, but we are not there yet. I think it's important that we lay the foundation on why we are all here. Why are we gathered here? So, as you all know, on Monday, the world celebrated the World Refugee Day, and the theme for this year was In Solidarity. And it is because of this theme that we felt the need, the African Refugee Women-led network, together with Tusimame Wanawake, to join hands and partner together so that we can host the engagement event that you have attended today. As many of you might know, currently in Africa we have 44 million forcibly displaced people, and women and children make the majority of that number. And so we cannot talk about the issues of refugees without addressing the issues of women and children. And so today we want to unpack certain challenges that refugee women in particular come across in their host countries. And so we want to unpack those, and not just to unpack those issues, but we want to also come up with a solution. African Refugee Women-led network, we believe that those who are in displaced or refugees should be the ones actually in forefront, engaging and finding solutions to their own problems. Just to give you a bit background on what the network is, the African Refugee Women-led network, you can also refer to it as ARNET. We are a continental network. We are currently in 17 countries. And what we basically do is to advance the issues of refugee women across Africa and internationally as well through advocacy, policy engagement, and capacity building, as well as cross-border collaboration. And so it is our hope today that this engagement will spark conversations, strengthen connection, and inspire all of us here to take action, and not just to take action, but to also making sure that we shift the narrative on how refugees are seen as people who are in need of aid, of people who are in desperate situations. And that is true, but we also want to highlight that refugees and refugee women in particular, they are leaders. And so we want to showcase that leadership to really encourage institutions and organizations, government and policymakers to say, you cannot sit in the room and talk about the issues of refugees and refugee women without having them on the table. And so it is on that we have gathered here, and I hope that you are going to enjoy the rest of the program. Over to you, MC. And just before I sit, I know I'm going to introduce her later. We also have our Secretary General for the African Refugee Women Network, Mama Liliane Mukidi. We are going to introduce her later as we bring the panelists in front. Thank you.
And those grounds does not include nationality. So the exclusion on the basis of nationality is always debated about, because the protection or South African government gives the priority to citizens, and when refugees and asylum seekers or foreign nationals are excluded or discriminated on the basis of nationality, and then the question of nationality is sometimes difficult to challenge. The other is political involvement or political participation, because as you all are aware, foreign nationals are not entitled to political rights. So the question of political rights, it's not the only issue for being involved in political parties, because I think that, if we have been in South Africa, issues like in Bizo, where government officials comes down to the community to engage with them. So in that context, you will find that foreign nationals are not included, or they are not there or participating in order to voice their concerns. Regarding the political rights, you will find further that foreign nationals' voices are lacking in terms of politics. Because why? Because the foreign nationals does not form party of voting constituents. The officials are not accountable to them, and in political platforms you will not find foreign nationals in those political platforms. So that it makes that the voices of foreign nationals does not be the voices of foreign nationals are not heard. So when we look at the structure of the constitution, and we look at how the laws are being adopted, for example, when it comes to socioeconomic rights or freedoms, I may speak to Public Service Act, because, for example, even if we are here, foreign nationals, especially refugees and asylum seekers, cannot work in the public sector, because the Public Services Act restricts employment to all citizens and permanent residents. So that is another issue. So when it comes to the private sector, you will know that the employment is subject to BEE, which is a broad-based Black economic empowerment. And when each and every company is mandated to comply, then the foreign nationals are not able to have access to employment. The other one is when we talk about small business. When we talk about small business, you know that refugees and asylum seekers, mostly in many or in other countries, they are usually supported to be able to be self-reliant. But when it comes to South Africa, with regard to small business, you will find that refugees and asylum seekers have no access to small business funds. Even to establish their own business, have them registered by municipalities, it's difficult to do so. So when it comes to women, I wanted to speak to the issue regarding the documentation or to the refugee protection. The challenges that comes with the refugee protection by itself is that women, in the context of refugee protection, I like to say that they are treated as minors. And treating women as minors in terms of refugee protection has a lot of challenges that women face. So when we apply for asylum, there's many applicants, and in many cases the main applicant is a man or is a husband, and the wife becomes dependent and the children becomes independent. So anything that happens to the main applicant affects women. So it comes to the issues of, for example, if I speak to the issues of divorce, issues of deaths, issues of separation. So in a case, if you are independent, in a case, let's say the husband dies, then it becomes difficult to a woman to become the main applicant, because in that case, if the main applicant is no longer existing in the file, that means that the person who wanted to take over the file and become the main applicant in that file is usually relegated to an asylum seeker. For example, if you have a refugee status, you will be relegated to asylum seeking, so that you subject it to interview, so that they can be able to see if you qualify for refugee status. So that process makes many women not to apply, because if you have your refugee status and you want to apply, you may fail the interview and leading to legal consequences where you may find yourself becoming illegal because your refugee status has been taken away. The other issue that relates to that is where the Refugees Act states that yes, goes to them. So from all refugee reception offices, when the matters goes to review, then they must be reviewed by the standing committee.
When you are there, I'm just trying to take advantage of it because of short of time, but maybe what you can highlight in 1 minute. I mean, you have worked with refugees for a long time, you have seen different cases brought to your table. You know, when you speak of how women in South Africa, refugee women in South Africa are treated as minors, for me in itself is a big challenge because, I mean, we have children who currently, if you have a children as a refugee, you are not given a proper birth certificate. Considering that that woman is treated as a minor and can't be the main applicant on the documentation, are there ways, what can be done? Is there anything that we can do collectively to challenge that? 1 minute.
To challenge that requires a concerted effort of non-profit organizations that they must come together to be able to lobby and advocate for that government, because in order to achieve that goal, the government needs to amend the Refugees Act so that women are no longer treated as minors, as I stated, so that the Refugees Act is amended, so that for the voices of women to take a momentum. Otherwise, without that, it will always be difficult for women to be able to have the documentation. The other on that point is, for example, the government needs to recognize the issues women face, because, for example, in certain circumstances, women are unable to, for example, to have a divorce. Why? Because when they
Africa or in South Africa. No, it's a worldwide issue. So it's another form of war, if I can put it in that way. And this, well, maybe if we say, what is gender? The way people understand it, if I ask, they will tell you it's just women issues. Yet it's not that. This applies to men and women. But when it comes to gender-based violence, yes, the majority, the high number, it's women who are the victims and men are the perpetrators. But you have cases where it's the other way around. And most of the time, we centered our intervention or our response to women, and we are forgetting the perpetrator. So I'm still coming to your question. It's just to bring like the background, how this happened. If this issue of gender, its roles assigned to male or female in the society, and this with culture, with beliefs, with practices, many different. So if we just take a simple example how this gender-based violence occurs. In most of the culture, I have been in different culture. So I've been a refugee for 47 years, which means since I was born. So I've been a refugee my life. So I've been to different places where a child boy is born. In most of the culture, they will put a spear. Sorry, I'm a French speaking. La lance, it's spear, in front of the house to show that a fighter is born. Is it?
Yes.
When it's a girl, they will put those 3 stones to show that someone who's going to take care of the family is born, a caring person. And this, it's starting from the birth. And when a child boy fell and cried, what do we say? Don't cry, you are a man.
Yeah.
Yet, they have also feelings. First, we are all human beings. Before we are men and women. We are all human beings. So when we are telling that child, be strong, a man does not cry. You must be courageous. You must be. So those roles and responsibility that we assign for this child male and for this child female. It's way now, if we go on and on and on, we are going back to the issue that doctor was talking and you to say that women are considered as children. Because already from the beginning, this man, they give him that responsibility. You are the head of the family. You are the strongest of the family. If there's a problem, you are the last solver. If this. So all this weight that they are putting on a man. And for women, okay, you take care of the baby, you'll be cooking, yeah, you can cry, it's okay. So all this brings to this kind of issue. When I'm coming from my country with my husband, yes, the society say the man is the head, is the leader of the family. So he's the one who's going to apply for the refugee status. And his result will apply to my result. Although I'm having my strong case, but my case is not considered because I'm married and the man is the head. And he maybe does not have a case. Maybe we ran away from our countries because maybe the head of the rebels wanted to marry me, and wherever I will go, they will start looking for me and they can kill me. Then we come to South Africa, I'm the one who's having the case. But because he's the man, they are considering this one. And the consequences of the results will apply to all of us. Coming to your question, the gender-based violence and the assistance that people are not getting, it's a huge challenge. Even within the South African communities, women are facing those challenges. The police, I used to assist the police in the victim support room where you receive people, men and women. But again, men, they don't report. Why? Because remember again, the society say you are strong. When they were children, they told them, don't cry, men don't cry. So if this man is facing the gender-based violence or violence, so are you going to have that courage to go to the police and report? Yet the society said, you are a man, don't cry. So now when it comes to refugee, most of the culture, when you are facing gender-based violence, now I'm coming to women, most of our culture, they said, the marital issues, what is happening in your house, keep it. It's how, and some of us, before you get married, remember you have those aunties who are giving you advices. I remember for mine, they told me that you have to take the stone from the river, those small stones, put under your tongue, and put water. When your husband is talking, when he starts shouting, just put it and put water. That is a remedy to not be beaten by a man. But after I realized, how are you going to talk when you have water in your mouth and it's not under your tongue? So it was a way of saying, you are a woman, close. And you must not report. That is another challenge when we are saying there's a challenge when it comes to gender-based violence in the refugee community. There's first our culture, which is always on our back. It's how marriage is built. If your husband beat you, quiet. You are there for your children. And you'll keep quiet, and most people, they are losing even their lives. They don't even reach to the police. They will lose their life. We have so many people who are suffering from depression, blood pressure, and you don't have your auntie here, or you don't have your mother here. Maybe you can talk a little bit to not bring it outside. People do not know your husband is beating you. And in other cultures, they will tell you that if your man is not beating you up, it means he does not love you. He has another woman somewhere. So, you know, this culture are the one who are destroying some of. Come now to reporting to the police. While I was assisting with the victim support group and being member of the CPF, the language barrier is a big issue. Back home, most of women, they were not sent to school because of this culture thing. I almost became a victim of that. We finished high school with my brothers. Now to go to university, my father couldn't really afford. Now priority is the brothers. Priority is the brothers. So what I did,
issues be tabled in Parliament. We often listen on the statistics of GBV in South Africa. It is of an overwhelming number. But when you do analysis on the data that is provided, there is no data on refugees and migrants, right? And yet they are part of the same society. So my question is, how can we table these issues in Parliament? How can we influence those who do data collection to making sure that when the Parliament receives information about the citizens, that they also have the information regarding the refugees and migrants? Thank you.
I think it's good afternoon now. I just wanted to firstly say that what the Commission does, it's a Chapter 9 institution, which means it's created in terms of our Constitution, and my Commission specifically deals with gender equality. So even though you might think that gender equality is only possibly about women, it's not. It's about men, women, as well as the LGBTIQ plus community. And I think it's very important that we don't exclude them. And so it is to be able to ensure there's protection as well as development and attainment. And the Commission also has the power to regulate make submissions in relation to national legislation and also policy, including the power to monitor, investigate, research. So it's very broad. So that one, explaining what the Commission is doing is because that is one place where you'll be able to access, for example, certain services. Before I'm even getting to Parliament, there's also other Chapter 9 institutions, which you all know is the Human Rights Commission, there's the Public Protector, the Commission for Culture and Language, etc. We have the Auditor General, so there is 9. And all of these, especially the 4, all refugees, asylum seekers, migrant workers, will be able to access all of those Chapter 9s. There is no discrimination in relation to rights. But there might be, for example, like you've indicated, serious limitations. The Refugee Act for us also, way back, 2017, coming into effect in 2000, was supposed to be an integration and nothing what we're seeing today, which is a major challenge. So just coming back again, there are a huge amount of institutions like Louis Human Rights, Legal Resource Center, there's Calabrini, there's Sonke, there's lots of NGOs that are also here to be able to ensure that the rights of refugees and in particular migrant workers are seen to. And how do we do that? We do it through making submissions. There's lots of laws. I'm going to give maybe an example. One thing that they don't look at is, for example, sexual health and reproductive rights of refugee and migrant and asylum workers. The challenge that we're sitting with is access to contraceptives, access to family planning. Because especially if you do come from a country where you are fleeing for your rights, etc., and you come into that country, how do you access sexual health and reproductive rights, but in particularly access family planning? And in this country, you can go to the hospital. Even though there are challenges, it is accessible. And I would say that if there is a problem, that you will be able to go to one of the institutions and actually say that there is inequality, and there is also the equality court. Now, many people don't use these because it is a bit far removed when you see that women are seen as minors or are deemed to be seen as minors, because our law don't actually see them as minors at all. There are also ways, but the possibility when you do your interview or your Section 22 permit interview, the possibility of you being split from your family, coming from a place where you've already been persecuted, might be, it might not even happen. So you need to be able to have processes put in place, which is like the fact what you're saying, nothing without us, nothing for us without us. Because the challenge is that we don't know your unique circumstance. You've got religious, cultural barriers. For example, there is also the problem is that if you are married in a particular religion, for example, the religion in itself might see you as a minor, because you need a guardian, you need a mahram, you need somebody to be able to. So even the system where you come from, don't allow you to be separate from that particular. So what we need to be able to ensure in South Africa is that when these laws come, we need to be able to lens it, to be able to ensure that there are submissions made. But just stepping back again, South Africa is signatory to a huge amount of protocols in terms of the international arena. Maputo Protocol, the various conventions, whether or not it's CEDAW, the different conventions that actually do not, in fact, so our courts, in terms of the Maintenance Act, when it comes to children, we also note culturally where the children needs to go. More times than not, the religion or the culture indicates that it needs to go with the parent, with the father, but at the end of the day, the care responsibility remains with the woman. Do you have a right to go to the family advocate? Do you have a right to get a divorce and ensure there's proper contact and care? And is there a possibility that that contact and care and the divorce application might not impact at all with the asylum application? Because the two should not link. You divorcing should not impact on your asylum application, because within that, therein lies the power and therein lies the abuse, because you are dependent on somebody else in terms of the status. So it's very important that you bring those nuances before Parliament. And where can you bring it? You can bring it to the Portfolio Committee of Women, Portfolio Committee of Justice. There are various portfolio committees. And to be able to see when can you go as a collective and say, these are our challenges, how are you as a state dealing with it? And also in terms of your international, regional, and your constitutional obligations. Because even though, the application is that you are treated like a minor, you actually do have a case to be able to go to the, it's just the challenge you're sitting with is, it's the funding. Even access to justice costs money. Does Legal Aid South Africa provide free legal services to asylum and refugee? Do they?
No.
And so therein we need to be able to say, when the code gets amended, again, it gets amended every year, that you need to be able to bring in refugees and asylum seekers, and in particular women. Because just going back again, the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide did not exclude refugee women or asylum seekers. It's inclusive. Because like domestic workers, like farm workers, like other vulnerable workers, they are included, which means each province, and even the state has to put in place progressive laws and policies to be able to ensure that in particularly refugee women and the LGBTI community are being, or if there is GBV that is being addressed. You don't get discrimination at the Tutuzela Center. They don't ask you what, and they're not supposed to. You are not supposed to go into a state hospital and if you do want an abortion and say that you need to be able to come back, they can't. Because that socioeconomic rights is there. Your challenge that you're sitting with is the period between asylum seeking and refugee status. That period. Where you don't have the right to work, you don't have the right possibly to access proper education, etc., and then your trade is also, you can't even have a trade, or you can't access funding for your small business, etc. And those are issues that you need to be able to bring before the Minister of Trade, through the Portfolio Committee. You've got a lot of data here. This in itself is data. So you can go directly to the Portfolio Committees, you can go directly to Parliament, or you can go through an NGO, or you can go through one of the Chapter 9s. So there's many entry points where you'll be able to bring about and say, these are our challenges, see what it is, bring the change.
Thank you so much. Women get empowered economically, and men, by the way. We have had most of discussion when you talk about economic aspect on how to start business, how to make it grow, and so forth. But today, we felt the need to have a conversation around how refugees can partner with South Africans in order to grow economically. And so, Luando, one of the aspects that I want you to unpack is how do we get to collaborate? Particularly when we look at the issues of xenophobia. I've worked quite a lot on xenophobia projects, specifically focusing on xenophobia within the online space. And one of the narratives that come across is how foreigners are in South Africa to take their jobs. We see so much content in terms of videos, or foreigners sell expired goods. And so from at least the data that I've worked on, it almost seems like it's impossible for foreigners to partner with South Africa. But I think it's an aspect that we need to address and see how we can actually build a good relationship in terms of having unity, promoting unity when it comes to economic ecosystem. So unpack that for us. What are certain steps that we can do in order for foreigners or refugees and South Africans to unite and promote unity when it comes to economic ecosystem? Thank you.
Thank you. First and foremost, we are human beings before we are Africans. The African is not even our name. We did not name ourselves African. And when we say foreigners, we must also understand what do we mean when we say foreigners. Because there are foreigners who came here in 1652. They are employers. So first and foremost, I think what Flip the Coin is trying to do is to first advocate for awareness. And you cannot be aware of anything else if you are not aware of who you are. When we say flip the coin, we mean shift the paradigm. Know more who you are before you can know anything else. So we registered Flip the Coin as a company 2019, but we don't consider Flip the Coin to be a company. We are a movement that advocates for first spirituality, because without spirituality there can be no unity. There's our banner, the first one. On top is spirituality. And spirituality to us is not a religion. Spirituality is spiritual awareness, is us operating on our spiritual side of this thing that we call self. Because to know self is to know both the sides of what we call self. Self is first and foremost spiritual before it's physical. Do we know the spiritual side of self? Anybody who can help us? Can I also direct my questions to the floor?
We want to finish with the panelists and they can comment.
Okay. That's the first question. Do we know the spiritual side of what we call self? Which side is the higher side? Which side is the lower side? From which side do we connect to the source that we call God? From which side do we co-create as co-creators? Are we co-creating from the spiritual or from the physical? So if we are unable to answer these questions, then we don't know who we are yet. And we don't know our relationship to what we call God, which is the source of everything, including us, which is all in all, which is everywhere at the same time, which is the power that we are supposed to draw from so that we can create the life that we want to create. Flip the Coin believes that when we move from the physical side of self and start knowing more the spiritual side, we will start creating what is needed for us to live the life that we want to live. That is available for sale, to build value. We build income properties so that the members of the stokvel must earn returns, which means we are turning stokvels into investors. We have the land in Stellenbosch. We have a massive piece of land in Coffee Bay. We are developing 1,800 units in Stellenbosch, together with a company called We Trade Properties. Why? Because we are saying, as a people, when we contribute towards a common vision, we elevate our status out of the status of a beneficiary to a status of a partner. When we go to government with equity, we go to government as partners. This is our plan. Here's our equity. We want the money that we know you have. You have been allocating money over the years, but it keeps on, going back to treasury, because we are not there to collect it. Because we can't collect it as individuals, but as a collective. we can collect the money and use it to build value. From that value, we can solve the problem of unemployment, inequality, poverty, which solves the problem of GBV, crime, and other problems that we have.
Okay, Luando will still be here, and I think there is an opportunity here for collaboration, with the local and the foreign nationals. So I think people must take advantage of that and have a conversation with you so that you can elaborate more on that.
Just one last thing on the refugee part. Because we are advocating for unity of Africans, we have to take part in educating the people about what it means to be a refugee. I don't know what it means to be a refugee. I've never been a refugee. I've never been in a conversation with anyone who has been a refugee. We also need, because we also organize presentations, workshops, we've got events. Vivian, who invited us here, has been to one of those, but she has been to one that was organized by the Business Hub, which was played because we have a lot of collaborations with other organizations. So we also want to invite everyone, come to our events, let us engage, let us also participate in bringing forth these solutions that we are looking for.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have saved they say the good for the last. Mama Lilian Mokidi, she's the Secretary General for the African Refugee Women-Led Network. And I thought Mama Lilian would be best to talk about leadership. We wanted today not to be so much of just celebration, of the World Refugee Day, but we really wanted to have an impactful event where we showcase the leadership of refugee women. So I want you to unpack a bit on why is it important that we speak of leadership of refugee women? Why is it important that refugee women leaders are included in important spaces where policies are made? If you can unpack that for us, we keep talking about the shift of the narrative, of refugee women just being the beggars and so forth. So it's going to be interesting to hear your perspective on this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm so happy because this room is full of leaders. Let's talk about leadership. I'll start by saying that refugee women are not just survivors of crisis. They are leaders, advocates, and agents of change. So sometimes people think that when they call you refugee, is that your qualification? No. We have doctors, we have engineers, we have all kinds of qualification. That's what defines you. It's not only being doctors or what, you are a mother, you are a woman. And as my colleague was saying, by being in charge in your house, you're already a leader. We become leaders not by education, we become leaders by your passion. You are a leader. Globally, over half of refugees, displaced people, half of that are women and girls. Despite their resilience, refugee women are underrepresented in leadership, decision-making space, and that is a fact. Refugee women face double marginalization. First as a refugee, second as a woman. We just unpacked it here. Both sides, being in your house, being a woman. We're talking now with refugee, I'm focusing more on refugee women leaders. We not recognize. And it's just a privilege, just to bring in brackets, a privilege for me to be able to represent refugee women in international spaces. I'm telling you, many times I got upset when we're in a meeting where it's a meeting, there's a conference, a gathering for women, but you see men representing women. So what are you doing on this table? I'm speaking on behalf of our women in my organization. Who are you? Do you understand what women faces? Have you ever given birth? Do you know how to breastfeed? Do you know how to cook and look after the house? So how can you come and represent a woman? Let women speak for themselves. This is the time that women must stand up. Leaders who are in this room, I know all of us, most of them here, we are all leaders. As I said, starting from your house, what are you doing for you to be recognized? What are you doing for people to know that you are a leader? You're not just a leader around you, although you're doing it in your house, although you're doing it in your community. Let people know about you. Leadership is about collaboration. Leadership is about connection. Leadership, if you want to grow, you need to be connected. You need to collaborate. You need to understand. We don't have to fight. This is the thing that diminish us women leaders. Because we compete instead of collaborating. Let's stop competing. Let's come together. That's the reason why we came up with Arrowhead, with the African refugee women. It was a crazy idea when we started. We were thinking of continental. I always get a chance to talk to my chairperson and say, no, this is like taking a child from a primary school and putting her at the university. We did not even know where to start. But today, as I'm telling you, 17 countries are members of Arrowhead who understand that let's collaborate, let's partner. And it's not only about, they're not just members of Arrowhead. We are known in the world. We are known in all the spaces, international spaces, in just 1 year. Because of what? Collaboration. Refugee women are always, often being excluded in conversation and decision making. What's her name again? She just left. Our commissioner. That's because we don't even read. We don't even know what is our right. She just mentioned it. We can submit. You can do your submission. It's always say that African, if you put money, if you want to save money, put it in a book. So they will never going to open that book. They don't read. Let's learn to read, to know, to understand, ask questions. We always complain, no, this is my right. Do you really know your right? They just open up to us. We don't even know how to go and submit the issue that we have. For how many years we've been leaders? Micheline, you and Patti. For how many years? Do you know that we could do a submission on behalf of women? No. Let's be honest. You know, but we never share it with us. Sorry for that. But I'm talking in general. We don't want to learn. We don't want to collaborate. We don't want to understand. But this is the time that's not about blaming ourselves. The time is now for us to be united. The time is now for us to be in those spaces. I'll shift to all we need is capacity building. We need to be capacitated. And we don't, when we call people for workshops, people don't pitch. You invite people to come with a leadership workshop unless there is transport and money and food, isn't it?
Yes.
If there's no food, there's no transport, I'm not coming. Thank you, Mama Dede. I said that, I said, no, Mama Dede, we invite you, there's no transport, there's no food, but she's here. That's leadership. Because she wants to know what is happening. And thank to all the leaders who are here. Because you know you want to get something you're going to to take back to your community and also share. Let's be capacitated, let's be empowered. This is a time that we need to change, to shape, to be among the policy change, the policy maker. We need to be up to sit on the table and have a voice. And we can do it only if we come united. No decision about refugee women should be made without women's full participation. Are we ready to do that? Refugee women's voice must be at the center of all decisions that affect their lives.
Thank you so much, Lilian Mukiti, for highlighting the leadership of women. We're going to just give 1 minute for questions and a comment. Then we're going to close the panel. Anyone with a question or comment? Okay, there is a question on the other side.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Crispin. Other people call me Dr. Prasad, other people call me, I don't know. But my name is Crispin Kasarombo, and I'm the chairperson of Salem and the director of VAC. I do have one concern about those kind of gathering. We even spoke about it yesterday, but yesterday we had a meeting with the social development, online meeting, regarding the integration and cohesion. But around this kind of table, we need the main department to be here so that they can also listen what's going on. Like the department of Home Affairs, I don't know why they're not here, but the number one was Epping was invited, but she's not here. That's a very big concern. And also, I believe that if we want to succeed, we need also politicians here. Because why? Everything we can do without Home Affairs, without the politician, because they are the one making decisions in the countries, and they must also be involved for whatever we do. We need to invite them so that they can listen